On today's show, I want to talk to you about grief and the things that go with it, particularly the weaponisation of grief or the manipulation of grief. So that's coming up today on today's show. Stay with me. So today I want to talk to you all about grief and my experiences of grief. But also I want to talk to you about the weaponisation of grief and how it then becomes a tool for certain people, which is quite sad, really. It's sad that at a time when you are at your lowest, that's when people seem to want to kick you when you're down, I suppose, is the nice way of saying it. But hey-ho. So, some of you will know... and I only know that because you must have seen something somewhere, because I've had some messages. And I really, first of all, really appreciate your emails and your messages. My dad died in October of last year, coming up to almost a year. And for a show that talks a lot about mental health, I suppose it is a bit surprising that this is the first time I've discussed the fact that I lost or even said I lost my dad. But I did. Lost my dad, and I think in answer to that first question that I've just asked myself, I think the reason I didn't discuss it is it hurts, and it hurts too much, and I'm not quite sure I can keep me composure on here. I'm sure that me and Winnie will get to this as a subject at some point, but at the minute, still a bit too raw. So, but I do want to talk to you about what happens around grief. Because what grief actually does really well is it shows you where you are, who you are, and who you matter to. And that sounds really shitty. And it sounds shitty because it is. It's a shitty feeling, and it's shitty that other people show you their true colours. So, my dad died, and I think we can all agree that there are a number of... I think we can all agree that we all have a group or a gradient of friends. We have the immediates, the ones that we will move heaven and earth for. We have those that we think will then, and I mean, I think most people think, if I'm right with you, you'll be right with me. And on the whole, that is what happens. But not always. So, we have a core group, or category 1, if you want to put them into numbers. We have the A team. We have those that we talk to a lot, or are so close to they know us inside out, and they are your best friends. They're the people that you love almost unconditionally. They are close to you, and you will do anything for them, and they'll do anything for you, and that it's just how that is. We all have them. And then you move out in sort of circles of people that you're friends with, not necessarily in the first group, but they're more than an acquaintance. And then you have people that you know and people you might have worked with or whatever. And I think we all in our heads have some sort of system. I know that that's how it works in my head. So I thought I knew who my core group were. I'm going to rephrase that. I knew who my core group were to me, and I assumed wrongly, mea culpa, I got it wrong, that because they meant so much to me, that I must mean so much to them. And that was the surprise in all of this. That was the surprise that actually, just because that's how you feel about them, doesn't necessarily mean that's how they feel about you. There were people that were there for me, and then there were people that I thought would be there for me that really weren't there for me at all. And then there were those that weren't there for me, who I thought would be there for me and weren't there for me at all, that went a step further and actually took this opportunity to sort of kick a dog when it's down. Me being the dog. Grief teaches you a great deal of things. Grief teaches you how much somebody means to you, how much you miss somebody, how much you love somebody, how much they really changed your life and influenced you. But it also shows you just how where you fit in other people's worlds. So, I had surprises, both in those who weren't there for me, but then also in those who were. I have one friend that I've mentioned before, I'm sure, if you're a regular watcher. I'm trying to get comfy in this chair today, and I just can't seem to manage it. One friend that does not do any sort of mental health well-being is just, no, we didn't have that in my day, even though his day was my day. Well, we did. We just didn't discuss it. I've mentioned this friend a few times. So on my list of friends that I thought would be there, I, again, underestimated that friend. I underestimated him and overestimated so many others. So I underestimated him because he did text. I mean, we got cards, we got flowers, we got a lot of support. But then to get a text a couple of weeks later just to say, hey, how you doing, meant a lot. And it does mean a lot. It means a lot when people... Nobody ever knows what to say. Nobody knows how to sort of word it, and we're all in the same boat. But ultimately, to hear from people that you don't really expect to is quite nice. But then came the sort of weaponization of my grief. One person that I really thought would be there that then wasn't there at all hurt, actually. It didn't hurt as much as my dad, but I really did not need that hurt at the time. And I'd mentioned to Adrian that they weren't there, and I was surprised and I was hurt. Adrian then decided to get involved, even though I'd asked him not to, and mentioned it to this person. And this person then apologised and said, I thought if you needed me, you'd say. Okay. Now, we've all also been there when you think somebody's talking to you and they give you what I call the non-apology apology. Now, to me, raised a Catholic, and really have quite clear view, I suppose, based on my upbringing and where I am in life. But I think most people think this, so correct me if I'm wrong. I'll throw the email up, hail@hailtalkradio.com, or at The Rob Weston Show on Instagram and Facebook. Send me a message, let me know if this is you. When you apologise to somebody says, you've really upset me, you've done this, and I'm really upset. When you apologise, you aren't just saying, I'm sorry. If you genuinely mean your apology, you're not just saying, I'm sorry. What you are actually saying is, I'm sorry, and I'm not going to do that again. Or I'm going to do everything I can not to do that again. Or is that just me? I don't think it is just me. I think that's how most people work. hailtalkradio.com. hailtalkradio.com is the website if you want to look at that. At The Rob Weston Show on Instagram, Facebook, and wherever else you think we might be, you'll probably find us there. Is that correct? My teacher would tell me it's called a firm purpose of amendment. You are acknowledging you've got something wrong and you are sorry for it, but you are also acknowledging that you have to make an amendment to your life. Because without making that amendment, you're going to do it again. So that's what I think most of us think when we say, I'm sorry. And I also think that most of us know when somebody says they're sorry and they're talking absolute bollocks. So, and I'm going to try my hardest not to get into the nitty-gritty. They apologised for not being there and said, I thought you'd message me if you needed anything. I've taken on board what you've said. Job done. I didn't accept the apology. I didn't disaccept it. I simply said, I appreciate the apology. Now, that person clearly knew that I thought they were talking out their arse, and what they were telling me was what I call lip service. She's telling me what you think I want to hear, which is nice and considerate, bearing in mind I'm grieving, but really, I could actually do with a natural apology. So, what then happens is, I've lost my dad. I'm grieving. I'm the one that feels that somebody I thought would be there isn't there, and that's upset me. And then what happens is, my grief is then used against me. My grief's used against me because I didn't accept the apology. And that becomes the biggest issue here. Forget me dad, forget grief, forget anything else. The biggest issue is you did not accept my apology. You appreciated it, but you didn't accept it. And the reason I didn't accept it is I thought it was bollocks. And guess what? I was right. Because I do what most of us do. Or did what most of us do. Which is, when I'm upset, and grief, I think, if you've been there, you'll know. If you haven't been there, you'll get to know, because I guarantee you, I mean, it's like death and taxes. Everybody will go through grief at some point. It has its waves, and it's not a constant state of feeling absolutely shit. You have days where you feel all right. You have days where you function. You have days where you can get out of bed. You have days where, actually, it's not a bad day today. And you might actually even get a couple of those days together eventually. But then there are the days where you don't get out of bed. There are the days where walking, in my experience, we went to a farm shop and there was some Scottish shortbread biscuits on sale. And the tin had the Flying Scotsman train on it. Well, that was it. I was gone because my dad loved trains and he loved the Flying Scotsman. And seeing that was a trigger. And I'm sure for the rest of my life there will be certain things that will give me a trigger. I remember it's funny what you then start to remember, actually, because, going off on a bit of a tangent here, I remember that my dad, as a kid, I never saw my dad cry. I saw him mad, I saw him sad, I saw him pissed off, I saw him happy, which is most of the time. He was a really good dad. I never actually saw him cry until we went to his the grave of my nan, his mum, who I was born and then she died, and she knew who I was, but I don't remember her. I've seen photos, but I never met her. Never met my granddad either, on my dad's side. And the trigger for him was seeing the grave, because the minute he saw the grave, he just broke. It was like a pane of glass shattering. He was a mess. And I was like, well, whoa, where did that come from? I remember thinking this as a kid. And I think it's, obviously, I don't remember meeting her. I don't remember her, so perhaps that's the reason. I get upset going to my grand's, my mum's mum and dad. I remember them, and I get really emotional at their graves. So maybe that's it. I don't know. But the trigger for him, so I'm sure that for the rest of my life there will be triggers. Christmas Day, a friend invited us for dinner because our plans had changed, and we went for dinner and we had such a lovely day. And to be invited into somebody's home on Christmas Day is a big deal. To me, it's a big deal. You don't just let anybody in. So not only to let somebody in, but to let somebody in who is clearly a bit of a mess and is clearly trying to hold a lot of things together and is clearly celebrating Christmas, which is my favourite holiday. I love it. I am Mr. Christmas. I don't have kids, but my house looks like Santa's grotto. It's ridiculous. I go OTT. Seriously, it's a problem. To invite somebody in who's trying to keep together the fact that this is their first Christmas without dad, to me, is even bigger. It's just massive to do that. And I cannot thank Sue and Mick more for that. They invited us in. They did an absolutely outstanding meal. Sue did. Mick was in the pub with us. But that woman can cook. But she did something that was not just kind, it was beyond kind. It was that. Do you know what I would describe that as? Love. It wasn't kindness, it was love. And I needed it. We needed it. It was so amazing. I mean, the food was great, but the feeling, to feel that you are at home, that you are welcome, is epic. I mean, this is how much an epic lady. This isn't the Sue and Mick show, but Easter this year, my husband Adrian and our neighbour, their son Danny, were in Costa Rica. I'm a Catholic. Easter's a big deal. So Sue invited me for Easter Sunday lunch, and she said, listen, we're not Catholic, we're not religious, but I know it's a big deal for you, and if you want to come, I'm quite happy to cook you and there was lamb, and seriously, this girl can cook. But that all aside, the love that is shown by people that you... And I'll be honest, we haven't known Mick and Sue for that long. We don't... So to get love in that respect from other people is amazing. So we're together, we've got Christmas Day done, we're going home, we then watch Gavin and Stacey. And Gavin and Stacey, I mean, I've just got goosebumps just thinking about that. It was the finale, it was a big thing. I love Gavin. Adrian's not something... I love it. So I was going to be emotional anyway. And I held it together right until Neil the Baby sings Blackbird by the Beatles, which was one of my dad's favourite... It was my dad's favourite band and one of his songs. And to Neil the Baby, thank you, because you sang it so beautifully. I'd love, by the way, if you released it, because I would go and buy it. That was it. But by... Excuse me, hang on. Sorry, didn't expect that one. That was it. That's when I'd got tears. I was a mess. So, going back, grief comes in ebbs and flows, and some days you're all right, some days you're really not. Some days it hits you when you're not expecting it, like in a farm shop or watching Gavin and Stacey. And there are other times when you just want to get through a day. It doesn't even have to necessarily be a difficult day. You could just be at home with the dogs. It's just a day, another day you've got to get through with this new friend we call grief that's not staying, but he's here. And I think ultimately we need to remember that grief is a journey. It's not a destination, and I have met people recently that are quite happy that they have found grief. They will live in grief. They bought the house on the street that is grief, and they are not moving. And I find that quite sad, if I'm honest. I find it quite sad that that's what you're willing to accept, I suppose. That you think this is now your life, because it isn't. So, grief has the ebbs and flows. So in my ebbs and flows, I did what most of us do, which was social media, which is always a brilliant idea. So, I was on social media. And there would be days where I would post 20 times, quite easily. Pictures of my dad, songs he'd sung, lyrics, sayings, memes, whatever, that expressed how I felt. Now, I'm sure most of us, if we're honest, will probably say it's not so much that we're attention-seeking, but we want somebody just to say, are you okay? We don't actually need a long chat or an intervention or anything else, a counselling session. We just want somebody to say, I see what you're saying. I see what you're feeling. I understand. I'm here. A love, a heart. I posted a reel on Suicide Prevention Day. And on that reel I said the one thing that we all needed to do was when somebody crosses your mind, send them a message. Whether it's a love heart, whether it's a kiss, whether it's a, you okay? Don't even have to get into a conversation. But to imagine getting in bed at night and then looking at your phone and seeing that people, you crossed my mind. You crossed my mind, so I thought I'd send you a text. How amazing would that feel? How nicer would the world be if that were the case? But of course, that's not how things work, is it? It's not how. Anyway. So, back to the story. I am posting on Instagram, and I wish I'd never known this tool existed. Because what I discovered on Instagram more than anywhere else is that you can now see who's looked at your story. Or stories, in my case, because there was a lot of them. And the person that I thought would be there that wasn't there was looking at my stories. Now, bearing in mind, at this point, we've had the non-apology apology that I've not accepted, I've appreciated. So he's pissed off, I'm pissed off. Now, his apology came with the amendment, the firm purpose of amendment. He said to me, I didn't realise, I thought if you needed me, you'd say something, but I'll take that on board. But then I discovered he's looking at these stories and he's still not saying anything, he's still not there. So I was actually right, wasn't I? Because you didn't mean what you'd said. Because if you'd meant what you said, you'd have you'd have seen the upset and said, hey, how are you doing? I'm here. How are you doing? Are you okay? Now, the argument is always, and I call bullshit on this argument, I really do. The argument is always, I'm too busy. I ain't got time to text everybody I know. I ain't got time to... But you found the time to sit and read the stories. I don't buy this narrative that we tell ourselves that we are too busy. You are never too busy to do something you want to do. Ever. You will always find time to smoke the cigarette. You will always find time to do the line of cocaine if that's what you're into. You'll always find time to go and have a drink. You'll always find time to play football, to play tennis. You'll always find time to play with the dogs, to go and see whatever it is that you like to do. You will always find time to do it. To send a text is seconds. So I don't buy this. We are all too busy. We have kids. We've got football. We've got this. She has dance. She's doing ballet. I don't buy it. So, I'm pissed. I'm really pissed at this point. I'm angry that my dad's not here. I'm angry that I'm going through all this and the one person I thought would be there isn't there. Or one of the people I thought would be there that isn't there. Then you can see that they're looking at your life and still seeing the you are now living and seeing in real time the pain I'm going through and still not saying anything. Okay, I need a backup. So at this point, for me and my mental health, I removed this person from Instagram. Mainly because I did not need the added upset of them knowing, or me knowing that they'd been looking and still doing nothing, which really surprised me, actually. It really surprised me that this person would do that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it then gets tit for tat. So, months later, clearly there's an issue. What's the issue? I try and sort the issue. I'm not sorting the issue. Don't want to sort it. I'll get to you when I get to you. I try a few times. Adrian tries. We get nowhere. We are now in the civil to each other if I see you zone. Which is sad, because this person was a massive part of my life and I thought was a brother. Was somebody I could and have moved heaven and earth for in the past. Have been there for him. And I think we all automatically think that they will be there for you because you were there for them. But that's not how it is. To have your grief used against you in whatever way to suit and not be able to see that the bigger picture here is, because I've had this myself recently. So, a friend of mine lost a husband. I've got 3 friends at the minute that have recently lost their husbands. There's either something really dodgy going on, or and they sent me a message saying, I need to talk to you, and I was tied up doing something else, and I needed you. The time I need you and you're not there. And I thought, whoa, back up. I'm only telling you this to highlight an issue. Let's back up. I'm not there for you. I've been there 24/7. I've talked to you more recently since your husband died than I ever have before. What on earth? But then I took a beat. I took a breath and said, okay, let's back up a minute.
Thoughts on today?
Wind it back, wind it back.
She's not actually angry. She's grieving. She's grieving, and that's what we need to remember. I need to remember that she's grieving. So instead of going full nuclear and saying, what the hell do you mean I'm not there for you? I've been there for you for I don't know how long. What are you talking about? I'm really offended by what you just said. I actually took a breath and said, okay. That's the grief. I wasn't going to use her grief against her. I wasn't going to use it as a weapon to say, what the hell are you doing? Because grief isn't a weapon. Grief should never be a weapon. Grief is a lonely, desolate, crap place. And when you give into it and you then allow it to control who you are. And I think, let me be clear, we can weaponise grief, the griever, as well as those that are meant to be supporting the grievers. I've heard recently somebody use the phrase, I'm going to use the grief card until it runs out. I'll milk it as far as What? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. Really doesn't. To do that is to weaponise grief for your own means, and quite frankly, you're getting a lot less sympathy from me, kid, if that's what you're doing, because I thought your emotions about your husband that died were quite reasonable, were real. But if you're playing that card, then I'm not playing, because if grief's a game, love, you can win. I don't want to win. So it's not just a one-sided thing where they can use grief against us and we can't. People use grief in so many different ways. I think the key thing to remember is not to visit your grief on somebody else. My family have done this recently. At a time when, as a family, we should have been the closest we've ever been, we were shattered to the point we're not talking. I mean, that's how bad it is. I was cut out. I was cut out of the process because I don't live with my dad. I didn't live with my dad. We were in Rome at the time. We weren't there for any of the arrangements. We could have been, but we weren't ready, is what they said. We're not ready. We're not doing that. Yeah, but I can do it Thursday, Friday, but then or Wednesday, Thursday, but then we go to Rome on Friday for the 4 days, 5 days. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. We're going to do it while you're not here. So I'm cut out of the service, what type of service, how long the service is. I'm allowed to pick a hymn. Pick tonight's hymn. Even cut out of the eulogy in that I'd started a eulogy thinking, actually, I'm quite good at talking, I'm quite good at writing. I'll start this, and I sent it over and said, listen, have a chat with my mum, see what you think, add bits, take bits out, do what you want. That's brilliant. We were really struggling. We didn't know where to start. This is a brilliant start. So off they went. And I didn't even get to see the eulogy before it was the service. Didn't even get to see the mass book for his service. The memorial thing with his photo on and all the rest of it. No input into anything other than that picking of the hymn. Any conversation about that funeral I was not part of or therefore. I got told when it was, what time, and I got told that in Rome. That's it. Nothing else involved me. The eulogy was read. I asked to read the eulogy because I thought it's the last thing I can do for my dad. I can do that. No, the priest's going to read the eulogy, and I know the priest, Darren, brilliant, was actually my vocations director a long, long time ago. Really nice guy, did a brilliant job, but he didn't know my dad. He'd never met my dad. There was nothing in that eulogy that I'd put in about the work he'd actually done in that church where he was about to be buried. There was nothing. There was no mention of the fact that he worked for free, as most people do with churches, but he was an upholsterer by trade, my dad, and he upholstered the 40, 50 pews in that, the kneelers in the pews, in that church. And they are still there. And they are still in the same nick as when he left them, when he did them, when I was 4, 5, 6 years old. There was nothing. There was nothing in there other than, it was a bit like listening to the racing. Who came first? Who came second? This was this day. Then they did this. Then they did that. That was it. And I'm sat thinking, hang on a minute. Not only are you not describing my dad and the one that I knew, but you've also taken every single word that I put in out. You've kept in, he was a father and a husband. Everything else that told the world who my dad was is gone. So, sorry. Try and keep it together. So grief can be weaponised not just by friends, it can also be weaponised by family. And family members can, when they want to, and they really do. And I don't know if that's because that's who they are as people. I don't know if that's because you don't know how to deal with your grief. So you then have to visit that anger and upset on somebody else. I don't know. I just know how it feels to be on the receiving end. And let me tell you, it's not nice. It's not nice to have... it's not nice to have your whole life with your dad discussed like you weren't even there. To not be able to do anything for your dad when he's dying is bad enough, but then not to be able to do anything for him at his death, when you are celebrating his death, it's heartbreaking, it's soul-crushing. It's the worst manipulation, weaponization, whatever you want to use, word you want to use, of grief I've ever had. And it takes it out of you. It's not something... How does the song go? There's a scar through my heart, but I'll bear it again. I can't do that. I'm not bearing this again. And I'm sure, listen, I'm sure if If you listen to the other side of this tale I'm telling you, this story, I'm sure they'll have their points. I'm sure they thought, well, he's done this and he said that, and I'm sure. I can only tell you what my experience is, and my experience of grief is it sucks. And the people that you think are around you that are actually going to make this a bit more bearable, a bit more easier to deal with, and then don't, that sucks as well. I didn't go to the wake. Now, some people may think that that's a bit weird. Some people may think my thinking was right, my thinking was wrong. I did not want to be in a room of people that I don't particularly like. They're not nice people. Some are lovely, some really I've got no time for. And I don't want to be in a room full of people giving me fake compliments about a bloke they never came to see. I'm not two-faced like that. I don't have the ability to... Now, you may argue, well, maybe you should have just swallowed your pride and got on with it, but it wasn't really a pride thing. It was more of a, I don't like you, you don't like me, I know I don't like you, and you know and vice versa. So why would I want to then sit in a room, having a drink with you, discussing a guy who was my dad, that you never came to see, unless you needed a sofa covering. They were always there when they needed an upholsterer. But other than that, they weren't knocking on the door and saying, do you fancy a pint, Barry? Brilliant at darts, my dad. They weren't saying, do you fancy a get? There was none of it. And I'm sure, listen, well, I'm back to the busyness of life, and I get it. But if anything, when you lose somebody in your family or your friends, it teaches you that actually life is more important than not having time. You have to make time. I think ultimately it's a choice. You can choose to be there for somebody or you can choose not to be there. But when they call it out, when they call you out on it, at least have the decency to accept, yeah, I ain't one of that. And listen, some people, I mean, I'm guilty of this myself. So I speak, mea culpa, I put my hand up. I'm exactly the same. I had a friend whose boyfriend at the time committed suicide. And I think most people would say to you now, if anybody's going to be there, Rob will be there for you. Because I am. That's who I am. I will text and say, how are you doing? So-and-so's nan's not well. How are you doing? I make the time. And I know that everybody's, listen, again, that's not a dig. It sounds like a dig, but it's not a dig. But in this respect, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I did not know how to handle it. And I think my exact words is, I don't do death. I don't know what to do. So I wasn't there. I wasn't there when this friend needed me the most, and her world had collapsed. I didn't know what, I just didn't. But instead of just being there, and I think that's the other thing, people think that, well, I'll have her there and I'll have him there because they will be able... Sometimes they don't need an answer. They just need not to be on their own. Sometimes they just need somebody saying, do you fancy a cuppa? Sometimes they just need somebody to say, yeah, it's really shit. Sometimes they just need somebody to listen. And that's the mistake I made. I thought if I go around there, she's going to want me to answer. She's going to want to talk about him, and she's going to want to try and understand why, and I don't know why. I mean, it's like trying to join the pub quiz or the spelling bee at school, and you can't spell. You don't do it because you don't know what you're doing. So why would I do it? So I didn't do it, and now I've lost a friend. And actually, I wrote back and apologised to her a couple of years ago when I lost a friend to suicide. I lost a friend to suicide and said, I now know exactly how you felt. I knew exactly how you felt, where you were, and I should have been there, and I'm sorry I wasn't. I'm sorry I wasn't there, I should have been there, and I hope you can forgive me. She said she had. She does. We're not friends, but I'm forgiven. So I think sometimes our failing is that we think that grief is something that you then need to be there to support. You need to be there to answer questions about. And it's not. 9 times out of 10, we just want somebody to hold us hand. Sometimes we just want somebody to give us a hug. Sometimes you just want a cup of tea. I don't drink tea. A vodka and Coke. And for somebody to say, do you know what? It's shit, but you're not on your own. When they're posting on Facebook, they want somebody to say, I see you. I see you. I hear you. I can't do anything about it and I can't change it, but I'm here and you're not on your own. And that's all I wanted that day. That's all I've wanted most days. Death really clarifies life. It really clarifies who you can rely on and who you can't. And I think to an extent, the only person we can rely on is ourselves. The only person that I can rely on 100% is me. The only person I can rely on 100% is me. And I think ultimately that's quite sad. I get it, but it's sad. I dislike it, but it's sad. It's true. It's how it is. Don't assume that somebody that is grieving or going through a hard time wants anything other than somebody to listen. And I think what really hurt me in regard to the friend was when they needed somebody to do nothing else but listen. I was there. And I think that's the thing. We all automatically think, I was there for him, he'll be there for me. I was there for her, she'll be there for me. They were there for me, so I've got to be there for them. That doesn't always work. It doesn't always work, doesn't always tally, and it's not always how it is. The only person you can 100% rely on is yourself. Ultimately, I can't change his behaviour. I can't change anything about anybody else's behaviour. The only thing I can change is me. How I respond to that and where I put people to start with, I think. I thought that person would be this person. I thought this person would be that friend. I thought they would be there to do what I needed from them. And lo and behold, they're not. Is that his fault? No, it's mine. It's my fault. It's my fault because I put him, them, whoever it is, into the category of thinking that they would be there. Now, for whatever reason they can't be there, that's not their fault, necessarily. What is my fault, what is at fault is me. I'm the one that decided. I'm the one that expected. And you cannot change, if wishing made it so, you cannot change somebody else's behaviour. Some people are just not there. They're just not. You can't do anything about that. What you can do is change your expectations. Change your expectations and change how you then react to that person. How you then decide to manage your life and your friendship. And ultimately, I just find it really interesting that you can be, and quite amazing actually when you think about it, that you can be there, excuse me, you can be there for somebody when nobody else is and nobody else wants to be. But the other way around, no, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. So I think ultimately we need to remind ourselves that even in grief, we need to look at our own faults and our own failings. And we need to remember the only people we have any input or control over is ourselves and how we react to somebody else. you can weaponize grief in many ways. And, I mean, my best friend's husband died the exact same day that my dad died, which they both lived in the same village. It's just a bit weird. Mathematically, I'd love to know the probability of that. Carol Vorderman, if you're about and you fancy working that out, kid, knock yourself out. I'd love to know. But it then became a competition. Not between me and her. But her husband had died and they'd been married 20 odd years. And then somebody came in and said, well, I were married to my husband for 40 years and he died, you know. Right. Not quite sure I get your point here. It was a competition. They were weaponising their grief because it wasn't then about them. Like it was a competition. And it wasn't. Again, if that's the competition you want to play in, kid, knock yourself out. You win. I don't mind. Quite happy. You cannot keep... It's not healthy to live in grief. It's not healthy to think that grief gives you a right to something. It's not healthy to think that grief is now your constant companion. There will be a time where I hope, I pray, this feels better, and I can remember my dad without bursting into tears. I think I'm doing quite well today. Certainly discussing it on this, I really do think I am doing quite well. Mainly because I'm pinching my leg under the desk. But, joking aside, grief is a journey. Grief is not a destination. It's not somewhere where you should want to pull up and park. Grief is an ending, but it's also a beginning. I firmly believe that this life isn't life at all. I believe in eternal life. I'm Catholic. That's what we believe. So when it comes to it, my dad has just begun his journey, his life, his experience. Death and grief bring a great many different things. They bring a lot of pies, oddly. Fruit pies. Run out of apple pie. If anybody's local and fancies making me an apple pie, drop it in. It brings many things. It brings kindness. It brings that outstanding amount of love that I felt on Christmas Day. That outstanding amount of love and support that you get. Is it then wrong to think, well, actually, you weren't there for me and I thought you would be? No, I don't think it is. I don't think it's wrong to think that. I don't think it's wrong to expect that. I don't think it's wrong. But I have to say, it's a big game changer when somebody then says to your husband, does our friendship, if I'm not friends with him, does that mean I can't be friends with you? That really just changed the way and really make you question your entire sort of relationship with that person. It really sort of, hang on a minute, what? He counts you as one of his best mates and you're asking me that. I mean, to me, that's sad. It's another sadness. It's another cut of the knife. It's another... The first cut is the deepest. The second one wasn't fun either, let me tell you. But grief gets better. Grief gets to a point where you can remember people without the emotion, without the anger, without the frustration. And I think also it's important to remember that something that I forgot. I grieved for my dad, but I forgot that my husband was grieving for his father-in-law. I forgot that my husband was sat, upset and broken and sad and in bits. Because he wasn't showing it doesn't mean he wasn't feeling it. He was the rock. He was the one that was there, that was there to say, hey, I've got you. You're all right. He did what husbands are supposed to do, I suppose. But it wasn't until a few days after my dad had died that he'd sent me the message that he'd sent to people to say, Rob's dad's died. And now, my mum and dad are both deaf. So communication between somebody that doesn't sign and somebody that does sign is difficult. And Adrian doesn't sign. He lip reads, he hugs and thumbs up and whatnot. And he put in the message that Barry, my dad, was able to show his love for his son-in-law by a smile, a fist bump, or a thumbs up. Sorry. It's another loss. It's another sadness. It's another pain. Don't forget, it's not just you. Don't forget, don't ever get to the stage where you think nobody else is listening. Nobody's listening, nobody cares, and I am in this on my own, because believe me, you are not. At all. Ever. Grief is shit. It doesn't get better. As Joan Rivers said, it doesn't get better, you get better. You get better. And grief, as much as grief takes something away from you, it also teaches you an awful lot about yourself, about other people, about your relationships and the life that you live. It's an amazing reminder of what do you actually want in life? What do you want to achieve? What is your goal here? What do you want? It's a very good leveler, a very good reminder that actually life is short. And if you value that person, don't be defined by their death. Be defined by what their life was. I'm defined by what my dad taught me. I'm defined by his wisdom, his smartness in quite random ways. You would think that a guy that's deaf, that can't read or write, would actually be unintelligent, where actually you'd be so wrong. Such a talent, such a smart guy that you'd think, well, what's he doing? Oh, it's like these videos. Do you ever see these videos that pop up on Reels and say 10 life hacks that you should know about? And if you do this way and type them, then you can do this. That's my dad. Ask him to do a line of sums, you'd be struggling. Give him something to sort or to fix or to mend or to make, he won't disappoint. When I wanted to be a priest, when I was a kid, he built a church. My garden shed became a church. And what I said in the eulogy that was then discarded was, and no offence, Father, my church looked a lot better than yours does. Because it did. He put his heart and soul into it. He didn't sit and say, I don't want you to be a priest. No, we're not doing that. He had no issue. As long as I was happy, that's all that mattered. When I told me, you know, the other thing is, I was worried about telling my mum I was gay. I was never, ever worried about telling my dad. Which may sound a bit wrong. He'd never worried me. And I know a lot of people don't have that experience. A lot of people are. My mum will be fine. It'd be my dad that kicks off. He might get violent. He might do. I never had that. I never had that. I never had the worry of him going off on one or thinking this is wrong. Or as long as I was happy, he could not give a fiddler's fuck, quite frankly. Excuse me. In fact, I mean, for other reasons, family, my parents didn't come to my wedding. And while we were abroad, I've got to stop breathing in when I talk into the microphone. Because it's not a nice sound, is it? It's not just me. I am aware. Mea culpa, I'll try. So, we got married. We went to Greece for our honeymoon. And while we were in Greece, we got a phone call to say that my grandmother, my nan, was dying. And if I wanted to say goodbye, I needed to be there quick. And I said, well, slight problem there. I'm in Greece on my honeymoon and I can't, by the time I get back, it will be too late. So on what should be a nice period of time, I had grief and upset to deal with. And that was hard. But the reason I'm telling you about that is on the first time we went back to my mum's after our wedding was the day of my nan's funeral. And don't get me wrong, I was livid that my mum and dad weren't at my wedding. No matter what we tried to do, they weren't there. And that's another story for another day. But I said to Adrian, listen, if we don't go to the house and say to my mum, I'm sorry your mum's died. I'm sorry my nan's gone. And then we are then those people, so we'll have to go to the house. So we went to the house. And the reason I'm telling you this is that the first thing my dad did, bearing in mind this is the first time he's seen us since we've got married, the first thing he did was give me a hug, shook Adrian's hand, gave him a hug, and congratulated us. And was the only member of the family that actually did. To say he was born in 1943, to say he was somebody that couldn't read or write and couldn't hear, to say that he was disabled or ill-equipped, I suppose, for life. He taught me, above all things, that love wins. If you're happy, that's what matters. He taught me that love conquers, that love is all that matters. He taught me to love and not to hate. He taught me so many things. And that is the enduring memory that I will take in grief. The fact that he taught me so much, the fact that he did so much, the fact that, ultimately, I'm the person I am today, largely in part because of him. It's his fault, sorry. Just is. It's his fault, not mine. He created me, it's his fault. Don't blame me. Be defined by the life of that person that you're grieving. Don't be defined by their death. Don't let the issues that come up with family, with friends, with relations and whoever else, even your relationship with God, don't allow that to suffer and change because you have a grief, because you are hurting. Because sometimes those hurts are the ones that you cannot fix. No matter how many times you've tried, some people don't want to fix. So be defined by their life, not by their death. Be defined by what they taught you and what they brought to your life, not by what they took when they died. Remember the memories and the fondness and the fun and the laughter. Don't be defined by their death. Be defined by their life. Because that way, anybody that tries to weaponize your grief against you fails. And they will fail every time. They will fail every time because you are living in love. You are living in love, and that in this world today is all we need to do. There's not enough love and understanding, as Cher said. All you need is love, as the Beatles said. Love is all you need. Don't be surprised when it comes from people that you weren't expecting. And don't be surprised at them when people that you think should be there aren't there. Be humble, be kind, and try and understand. I failed. I don't understand. And it's all, and listen, I get, well, you didn't understand, you got upset, you got fucked up with him, and you were, listen, I'm not perfect. I'll be the first one to admit that. Don't let somebody's death define you. Let somebody's life define you. If you've enjoyed this video or got something out of it, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Remember, any comments you've got, hail@hailtalkradio.com, hail@hailtalkradio.com, Instagram, Facebook, whatever else you think we should be on that we're not, give us a shout, at The Rob Weston Show. We're on there. In a world where we're being defined by life and not death, in a world where you have the power to be and do anything, I hope and I pray you will choose to be kind. Until next time, I'm Rob Weston. God bless.